All right, $1 million picks, week 18. So I don't remember a week 18 or in the old days, a week 17, a last week of the season that had this many question marks of who's rolling over and who's not. And I don't know why that's this year, but we even have playoff teams this year, like the Rams, where I'm like, they're not going to win. Like the Seahawks are -6.5 favorites, and the Rams still have a chance to like lock down a 3 seed. We were asking Peter Schrager about it this week, and he was texting us like, just the Rams haven't had a bye since week 6. They're banged up. McVay wanted to give Stafford and the receivers and Kyron Williams a week to heal for the playoffs, and really likes his backups. So that choice that the Rams have of like, if we lock down 3, we're probably playing Washington in the 3-6 in LA, or we drop down to 4 and we're playing the loser of Minnesota Detroit. I don't know. I really would have wanted to play Washington. No offense to your beloved,
no offense taken.
C words.
Right.
I would have gone for it, but I get it. That team must be really banged up is my takeaway.
Well, and we've seen it. We keep watching. That
last 3 weeks, I bet,
has been dragging. They just can't score. And Schrags included some of the stats for Kyron Williams. That dude needs a break. Give him a rest. It is a curious kind of decision out of the Rams, except for that's what they do. Sean McVay's done this before. So, the end, whichever of the teams between Detroit and Minnesota that they get will indeed be banged up. It will, just in terms of battle scars from the game this coming Sunday night, that will decide the 1 seed in the NFC. The loser of that
real
game.
Stakes. Like
real
where
stakes.
It's like,
it's awesome.
If you win, you don't get to play for a week. If you lose, all of a sudden you're traveling somewhere in 5 or 6 days and playing a round 1 playoff game. So yeah. Well, it ties into what we think will happen with that Detroit Minnesota game, which we'll get to in a second. But I was looking at Rams +6.5 against Seattle. Like maybe they hang. I don't really know what Seattle's motivation is because they're out.
Well, there is some Geno Smith motivation. He's one of those guys with a bunch of incentives.
Yeah.
He needs 186 yards. There's a basket of achievements for him that'll get him an extra $3 million this year. So, and I think the team will know that, understand it. Mike McDonald is motivated to beat McVay in his first season. They lost in overtime in Seattle. So I think there's plenty of motivation for Seattle. I'm just not laying 6.5. Because unless the Rams, the way that the rosters work right now, they have to play some of their good guys on defense. They can't sit their entire defense. And the defense has been the thing that's kept them. The defense propelled them into the playoffs. The way that the defense played over this past month, they saved the game against the Cardinals on Saturday with an interception in the end zone, right? The defense is the key. So I think, and Seattle's offense has been fits and starts. There is a difference for Seattle. Their splits when they play on turf and domes they've been very good. There's only been a handful of those games this year, but they've scored prolifically. So that would be part of why you might be concerned. They can win by margin if the Rams start pulling guys. But I like the Rams to be live here.
Rams money line with the over 38.5 is +438.
It's fun. It's fun.
Rams +6.5 teased in a 4-point tease on FanDuel up to 10.5 with the Chiefs 14.5.
Oh,
and that's +110 on FanDuel. If you want to talk yourself into Chiefs and Rams, not probably going to roll over in these games. So that's sitting there for us quickly. And the Chiefs, I'd be really scared of taking the other side in this game. I could see the Chiefs winning. I don't think Wentz is going to be that bad.
I wouldn't lay the 10.5, and I'll be glad to grab the 14.5 if that's what you're offering me in this 4-point tease. The Chiefs are not an F around team. They have been in this circumstance 4 times over the last sort of 5-6 years or so. And they tend to cover, and they tend to win outright. I think they've covered 3 out of the 4 of these situations, and they've won outright at least a couple times. They are not to be trifled with, and this is Still yet Denver on a losing streak with their rookie quarterback in his highest leverage game of his entire career. And he's capable of throwing some picks. I mean, the Chiefs' calling card has been their defense all season long. Now their secondary is vulnerable, but let's before we get super excited about Bo Nix in a must-win playoff kind of situation, I mean, 10.5, come on.
Yeah, it almost seems like maybe there's two ways to play it. We could just do smaller bets on the Chiefs plus 10.5 and the Rams plus 6.5 and assume you're going to split those and maybe win both. You could tease them together with the little 4-point tease, plus 10.5, plus 6 and plus 10.5 to plus 14.5, plus 6.5, plus 10.5. Or you have some fun, do Chiefs money over 39.5. That's plus 744 on FanDuel. Rams money over 38.5, plus 438. Just put small ones on both and hope one of them hits. And we'll have an answer for you at the end of $1 Million Picks. Two games I want to bet on. I want to bet against the Pats and I want to bet against the Titans. And here's why. The lines are crazy low. Bills are favored minus 2.5 over the Pats. Texans are favored minus 1.5 at the Titans. I have no idea why the Pats or Titans would want to win this game. And you can go back to the Giants game last week and say, well, you would have said that about the Giants. I watched that entire Giants game. It was a complete fluky collapse by Indianapolis combined with Drew Lock just had a really good game. And if you're Drew Lock, why wouldn't you want to have a good game? You're like trying to, prove that you could be a starting quarterback next year. That game just kind of fell away from the Colts. It was a coaching abomination. There was a special teams touchdown. There are all these specific reasons. Bills Pats, like it's, and I'm going to talk to my dad later in the pod about why Drake May's playing, just how just awful this Pats season's been. I can't believe that they would just give away the number 1 pick on the last week of the season.
Is Drake May really playing? Are they just saying that
because maybe he plays one quarter and leaves? Or
it really makes no sense whatsoever. None. The only person that it makes sense for is Gerard Mayo.
Well, so
is he in charge of the fucking football team?
But this is the problem. If the coach and everybody knew they were coming back next year, this is where we go, we're going to start Joe Milton. We want to take a look at him in week 18, and we're going to try some other guys. We're going to sit Gonzalez. If you don't know you're coming back, you kind of want to win. You want to end the game on a high note. You don't want somebody to say, hey, you guys looked like shit the last couple weeks of the season.
Yeah,
he's because I benched my quarterback, motherfucker.
A week 18 win over the Bills who sit everybody is really going to change the career trajectory of Jared Mayo. He's stunk all season long. We've had 17 games of evidence. Like, the Pats, to be fair, are exactly where they should be. It's what the market anticipated. It's why they had the lowest forecasted win total of the year. And here we are. Congratulations on getting it done. But like the twists and turns have been bizarre, and it does make you wonder who's in charge. And I think this coming Sunday game, the Crafts better step in. What's the GM's name? Van Pelt? Is that the guy?
No, he's the OC. The GM is the interim GM is Elliot Wolf, who after Drake May put together one of the worst drafts in the history of the NFL. No, you have to lose the game, and it's indefensible because if they get the first pick, they're going to be able to trade back. Even if they trade back 3 spots to number 4 and get more picks, you're just basically giving away players, and you're not going to take a quarterback at the top anyway. There's no defense.
It's long-term leverage. It's franchise-altering leverage. And when you weigh the risk, when you weigh the cost benefit of a week 18 win versus the trajectory for your effing franchise going forward, you have the cornerstone quarterback. The thing that you need to do now is get other good players on the effing football team. And the only way to do that, the fastest way to do that, is by doing the thing you're sitting and looking at right this second, which is to lose the mother effing game and get as much as you can in terms of capital. This is like very basic business building proposition shit right here.
Yeah, and we only have 2 good players. And Gonzalez had a concussion last week, so he shouldn't play. May's been banged up, took a big shot last week. You sit those 2 guys, they just don't have enough talent to beat even the Bills' second string. So I like the Bills minus 2.5. And I really like the Texans -1.5 against the Titans. I think the Titans are terrible. The stretch that they've just been on recently is just a roller coaster ride of shit. And the Texans have lost their last two, right? They've locked up the 4 seed for a while, but they kind of need to play well for a game. It's like you could say like, oh, they don't need the game, they're already in. It's like, nah, they kind of need to look good for 3 hours. And I just find it hard to believe they're going to toss away the game and go into the playoffs, finishing 9-8 for the season, hosting somebody good, either the Chargers or the Steelers, and just not feel good about anything that's happened for a month.
I totally agree.
I want to bet both of these, and I think we split at least one. If the Pats and Titans both win, that means the Browns are going to have the first pick in the draft. When do things ever work out for the Browns?
I feel bad.
Ever. Sorry, Browns fans. Know it's true.
Yeah. I mean, Cleveland writ large did get LeBron, so we can't, Cleveland's had some good fortune over the last
21
30
years ago, and he left.
I'm just saying 30, but, he brought him a title. Over the last 30 years, we don't have to say that Cleveland's,
well, then they got the Kyrie. They won the Kyrie lottery because the league felt bad for them. That's one of my top 5. Are we sure this lottery was on the level? Lotteries.
In any event, the guys on the Action Network that call the Titans the point shavers, which I think is fantastic, and I totally agree with.
What are they? 2-14 against the spread?
Yes,
2-15.
Yes, the worst. They have locked in the worst. They're already at the worst, but if they lose this week against the spread as well, then they are historically the worst against the spread in the history of the NFL.
Yeah, and the thing is, their quarterbacks suck. I just don't see it. I think they're terrible. They lost to Jacksonville last week.
They got swept by Jacksonville. It's an organizational disaster. I couldn't believe with my own eyes. I had gambled on them when they came to Washington, and they had just beaten Houston, and Washington was laying 6.5. I was like, and the Titans at that point had some advanced analytics that said their defense was good. They suck to high heaven. I think Washington had 200 yards rushing in the first half. They're abysmal organizationally. So
really bad.
Let's go easy to go against the Titans.
All right, so we'll put stuff against the Pats and Titans. The 2 big games I want to focus on, and there's so many games where it's like, I don't know if that team's going to care. I don't know if this team's going to care. I don't know who's playing. I don't know what the motivation is. But we know Vikings, Lions, and Steelers, Bengals. We know all 4 of those teams are going to give a shit about the game. Steelers, Bengals, everybody's on the Bengals, it feels like. The line is Bengals -1.5 in Pittsburgh. The Bengals are 8-8 for the year. The Bengals have really no good wins. Last week's win was probably the best win they've had of the season. I don't think their defense is good. Bo Nix missed multiple wide open guys, and he hit one, but he missed 3 others. I thought the Broncos should have won the game. I know Burrow's really good. I know Burrow with Chase and Higgins are really good together. Chase Brown, ankle injury. They're not going to be able to run the ball the same. But to me, this is a Steelers moment. I think they need the game. If they win, they're the 5 seed. If they're the 5 seed, they get to go to Houston and play a Houston team that none of us think are good. They should beat the Houston team. If they beat that Houston team, assuming the rest of the playoffs goes chalk for round 1, then they would go to Kansas City for round 2. Kansas City coming off, God only knows what they do this week. Bye week next week. Pittsburgh's going to go into Kansas City and be like, yeah, we can play with these dudes. I don't really like what I've seen from Pittsburgh the last few weeks, and I know you don't either. But they also had this crazy 3 games in 11-day stretch against 3 of the 5 best teams in the league. And now I think their stock's too low. We've been at the craps table house with the Steelers a lot. And we stayed a little too long in that Philly game, and we got our ass kicked. I'm ready to put some money and some dice and some chips down on the craps table on the Steelers again. I think they're going to win.
Yeah, you and I are seeing this exactly eye to eye. And I think it's important to continue to emphasize that the perception of the Steelers, because of this 3-game stretch, this 3-game slide, which was always circled in bright red as being an impossible task at the end of a season going up against the 3 best teams in the NFL by
Yeah.
a lot of ways you want to assess it. Yes, Detroit and Minnesota, but
Right.
this is without their best receiver, an offense that needs that receiver, that needs that over the top option, and the perception of who the Bengals have become because they had a luck win against the Cowboys, a special teams luck win against the Cowboys, and
Yeah.
then they beat the Titans, and then they beat the Browns, and then they held on against the Broncos at home in what was for them a playoff game, because if they lost, there was no playoff possibility whatsoever. It was not exactly a cover in glory moment for the Bengals. Their defense absolutely positively was right there trying to give up that game.
Well, think
And
about the special teams piece too. Like that,
amazing.
I don't trust their kicker at all. This is going to be
way.
a 3-point. This is going to be a classic Steelers Pittsburgh Tomlin game, and the Steelers have Boswell, and these guys have a kicker that I don't trust from any distance. Basically,
absolutely, positively right. And remember that the Bengals' last loss was to the Steelers in Cincinnati, where the Steelers had 530 yards of offense. I think they have it dialed. I think they understand how to exploit the Cincinnati defense, and it feels like a tremendous opportunity to grab the Steelers here, getting points at home. It's like classic Tomlin moment. So disrespectful.
Steelers with some rest, 10 days between the Wednesday and the Saturday, so they're able to heal. I love this. This is a classic Tomlin game. Look, if they lose, if Burrow kills them, I'm not going to regret betting on the Steelers.
I feel the same way.
The Steelers have come through over and over again in this spot at home. We've seen it too many times. And I think there's real stakes for them. That's the piece. The Rams, I get it. Like, it's like, okay, either we're going to be hosting Washington in the 3-6, or we're hosting probably the Lions coming off a really physical, brutal playoff game in the 4-5. It matters, but it doesn't really 100% matter. This Steelers thing matters. The difference between playing Houston in Houston versus going to fucking Baltimore and playing Baltimore for the third time, this really matters to them. And I think the Bengals are 8-8 for a reason.
I agree.
It's not like, T. Higgins missed a few weeks, right? Other than that, this is who they are. They have a couple good players and a lot of shitty ones.
It's the defense. The defense has been bad all season. You can't count on that defense. The defense doesn't get stops when they need to. That's not who this team is.
So do you like the Steelers plus 1.5, or do you just like the Steelers plus 110?
I like the money line.
Yeah, the plus.
I think they're going to win.
So it's a little more appetizing.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
And then the other one is Vikings Lions, and I feel like now every Thursday I'm just talking about the Vikings. How I don't understand why people don't realize they're good. They came through again last week, and the best possible thing happened in that game last week. They dominated. Their kicker missed a couple field goals. The Packers really got it going with 8 minutes left when the Vikings were way up. They stopped blitzing as much and doing some of the stuff that got them to the spot there in the first 3 quarters, laid back a little bit. Love started to look good. And all of a sudden it was, a 2-point game as the final score. It was not a 2-point game. The Vikings are awesome.
That's been the tale for the Vikings all season long. You look at their resume, you're going to see a slew of one-score games. They are one-score games because they were beating the crap out of teams, and then teams came back on them. I mean, Jordan Love D's nuts did it twice. He came back, and made the game inside of a one-score game. And this was very quick aside. Jordan Love D's nuts. They need to handle their business against Chicago because I think Washington. This game will be going on simultaneously. I like Washington, but Washington-Dallas is always hard.
Wonker. Yeah.
Yes, you do not say, oh yeah, Washington should walk over. So I think and the Packers need to show something. They got their ass beat. That was a physical. They got out physicaled. Their defensive line got out physicaled by the Minnesota front. So Jordan Love these nuts, and the Packers better show up and show out. But for the Vikings, I have one way that I want to play this, and I'm not convinced to move too far beyond the way that I want to play it.
Let's hear it.
I love them as a teaser leg. I think it's an incredible teaser leg, taking them as 2.5-point dogs and pushing them up to 8.5. The Lions are not in any kind of way, shape, or form in a position to win by margin, and they can't win by margin because their
To
defense
protect
is
the
so
lead when they're up
right.
14 in the
They
fourth
can't
quarter.
do it. Yeah.
Yeah.
And I respect the Lions so much, but look, they could have and should have lost that game against San Francisco. I mean, the Niners had a million chances,
Yeah.
missed field goals, Purdy overthrowing guys. Both of his interceptions to Kirby were grotesque overthrows. They were both directly on Brock Purdy.
And then he got hurt at the end.
Yeah. So,
Yeah.
I mean, I don't think Minnesota is going to aid and abet its own demise the way that the Niners did. But this game to me is like, razor thin. I have tons of respect for the Vikings and everything they've done. This is like it's such a good matchup. Dan Campbell and KOC, like really good coaching matchup, and home team. The line seems right to me. 2.5 seems fair. I just love the idea of the Vikings getting more than a touchdown.
I think the Vikings are going to win, and I want to bet on that piece of it.
That's fine.
But I also want to put them in a tease because I agree with you. Like, there's stuff we could do. We could do Pittsburgh plus 4.5 and Minnesota plus 7.5. That's plus 112.
Great one.
We could do Washington minus 220 just to win with Minnesota plus 7.5. That's around even odds. We can do that as well. Those would be my two. I
don't want to do Washington.
You're nervous about this Washington game.
Yes. I was nervous about the game. What they did against the Eagles, that comeback against a division rival, and everything they put out, and then for them to bounce back and show up and take care of business against the Falcons, again, in the most dramatic fashion possible. At some point, like the cumulative effect of that, this is a storybook season for Washington. They lead the league in come from behind victories. They lead the league in terms of scoring inside the last minute. They lead the league in fourth down conversions. Like, there's a whole bunch of stuff. It would be a rightful capper for this Washington team to beat Dallas in week 18, push themselves into the 6th seed. Like that is a absolute unbelievable miracle for the franchise. But man, the last 25 years, you must take recognition and take note. That's all.
So you're rooting for Trey Lance?
I am definitely not, under no circumstances. I hate Dallas.
I'm saying you're rooting for Trey Lance to be named starter for this game.
That he starts.
That helps
Cooper
your Rush because he's not a professional quarterback.
He is not. Oh, thank God. Yeah, if he's the quarterback, I'm really rooting for him.
So it sounds like we should put Vikings plus 130 and Steelers plus 110. We should just bet those and then do a tease maybe with the other way to do it is just do the tease and make that the big bet.
I like the tease better because I do think the resourcefulness of Detroit and their incredible backbone over the course of this entire season, even in the face of all that bad injury luck, they just keep coming out. I love so much the Campbells.
Montgomery too.
Yeah, I know. I mean, I understand. Look, it's just they're decimated. It's a bummer. I hate it. I hate the injury luck for them, but they're badasses. I just want to tip my hat to them.
I don't want to like if one of these two teams screws up somehow and then we lose both games. That's my fear because that happened last week. Because I love Minnesota last week, and you threw some water on it. You scared me off a little, and we ended up putting them in a parlay with the Colts. And the Colts lost, and then I won nothing on Minnesota, even though that was one of my favorite bets. So
I understand.
Part of me wonders.
Part of me wonders
just do the Vikings Steelers money lines, and then maybe we do that parlay.
The Steelers can lose. I mean, you're saying individually, just play the separate money line.
Yeah, play the separate money lines. No, not parlay.
Okay, fine. Great. I get what you're saying.
And then do the tease together.
Okay. Oh, I love that. Because the teaser leg for the Steelers is tremendous as well.
Yeah.
From 1.5 up to 7.5. Love that.
I think that's the move.
Okay.
So we do Vikings money line, Steelers money line, Pittsburgh with the little tease, and then Bills Texans stuff. And you want to put anything on Chiefs Rams or no?
If you want to do that 4-point tease, I kind of loved it.
All right. And do you agree that we should probably scale back this week?
Yeah. Oh my God. Don't bet anything meaningful. We pulled everything out of our ass last week. The only thing that was a setback in any way, shape, or form was the stupid Colts.
I know, but you know what? We should have known better.
We should
We
have
should know
better.
not to put. They were 7-point favorites.
Yeah.
And had no business being 7-point favorites over anybody. And
exactly.
that was a rare, we got suckered in on a bad team, basically just assuming the Giants would take care of business. And it was just a classic. Colts are an absolute, everybody needs to go situation. Right?
I mean, a very
and
quick
they probably
aside,
will.
Hilariously, Atlanta is in the exact same spot right now. Atlanta is laying 7.5, just the exact same way the Colts were laying 7.5. Atlanta's laying 7.5 to Carolina. Who's been spunky. I'm doing that.
I'm staying away from the NFC South.
Okay, good. Fine.
All right. $1,000,000 picks. Week 18. Last week we won $641,000.
It's pretty good.
We're up $2.177 million for the year. And we're
double the nut.
We're going to scale back this week.
Smart.
Because it's week 18. It's a stupid week. I want to have a nice little $2 million nest egg for the playoffs.
For the playoffs, baby.
Yeah. I don't want to be like, what were we doing? I don't want to be at the blackjack table 20 minutes too long after they change the dealers. Let's just take it nice and easy. Maybe we throw away the money line bets and just do Pittsburgh, Minnesota as the tease that we talked about.
Fine. It's one of my favorite bets of the week.
All right. All right. First bet. Pittsburgh. We're going to do a slight adjusted parlay with them. Plus 4.5 Pittsburgh against Cincinnati, with Minnesota plus 7.5 against Detroit. That is plus 112 on FanDuel. And the reasoning for this, we don't think Pittsburgh is being judged correctly after their horrible 3 games in 11 days stretch. They are now 10 days rest against a team that they put 500 plus yards on. They're home. They're underdogs. This is the all-time classic Tomlin situation. And then Minnesota plus 7.5. I think we both think they're better than Detroit, but this gives us some buffer if anything weird happens.
Yeah.
Even if they're down 10 or 14 late, they're going to get the cheap touchdown because Detroit stinks. So that's plus 112. We'll put $150K on that.
Okay.
Just to respect ourselves.
Fair.
And then I want to put $50K each on Vikings plus 130 and Steelers plus 110.
Great. No argument.
All right. Then we are going to put $100K on 2 teams against 2 teams that should not want to win this weekend, the Patriots and the Titans. So Bills minus 2.5, $100K on that over the Pats.
Good.
If the Pats win, I'm going to lose my mind. I'm just telling you right now. Just mute me on Twitter. Just do it. Do it now. I'm going to fucking lose my mind. Don't watch the Sunday podcast. I'm going to lose my mind if they win this game.
Oh,
Texans minus 1.5.
I kind of want to see it.
Texans minus 1.5 over the Titans. That's
the point shavers. Yes.
The point the Titans.
Texans over the point shavers. Let's go.
Going for 2-15 against the spread this season, which is the most. You're just going to bet against them every week. You'd be up $1 kajillion. That could have been $1 million picks.
Yeah, right. $1 kajillion.
So we're putting $100K each on that. And then last but not least, just a little $50K flyer on Chiefs plus 14.5 adjusted with Rams plus 10.5. That is plus 110 on FanDuel. We just feel like the Chiefs are going to hang around and make the Denver fans nervous. And I think the Rams are going to hang around because I don't think McVay is I just want to throw a game away guy. I think it's let me see what we have with Blake Corum.
Mm-hmm.
Let me see what Jimmy G. What do I got here?
You trust Jimmy G?
Yeah. What do I got with my 3rd and 4th receivers? Maybe I'll run some trick shit. I just think he'll have some fun in this game and get the team ready. So $50K on that, and those are the $1 million picks for Week 18. There's one more stake for this house heading into the weekend. I need a Houston win and I need an Arizona win. And I finish future over-unders. That's how I did before the season. I'll be 27-5.
Ooh.
Right now, I'm 25-5. Houston win, they go over. Arizona win, they go over. 27-5, house.
That's getting the job done. That's very well done.
At some point, that's just impressive. Like somebody. As I said it last week.
You don't have to say it. You
No,
don't have to say
we
it.
need the positive media account. Somebody who just points out positive takes that people had, or great takes on something, or like just, hey, this person's been successful lately. Like Cousin Sal with the wise wagers when he was 13-2. Hey, look at this. Kudos to him. We need more positivity on social media in 2025. Anyway, Houston, Arizona, if I can hit both of those, 27-5.
I'm rooting for you.
Keeping my fingers crossed.
I'm rooting for you.
Good luck with Washington. So when you're here for round one, Rams-Washington is in play.
In play. I mean, I don't want to.
That Saturday night
talk
game.
about it. It's just too rich of a possibility. Let's just humbly acknowledge to the football gods there is some possibility if everything went the way the universe
Rams
worked
get the
out.
3 seed, Washington gets the 6 seed. Maybe that's the Amazon Saturday night game. You're going to be here. We'd have to like seriously consider going to that game.
Oh, no, we wouldn't consider it. We're going. I already know who we're going to sit with. I mean, you know, we've got Washington fans in Los Angeles. The ownership of Washington would be so thrilled to see some of us. I think we'd have a tremendous time.
Right. Rooting for it. Well, you'll see us there. I would actually root for Washington in that game, I think.
Thank you. I mean,
But I'd also be rooting because I'm sure we'd be with Chang.
Yes, we would.
I'd also be rooting for his 3.5-hour roller coaster ride of a possible mental breakdown, watching him do it as he just angrily eats stuff to like he gets out all his neuroticism with food. That would be really fun to watch.
That's why we get along well, me and Chang.
Yeah. All right.
Right there with
House. Happy New Year. Great to see you.
Happy New Year. Great to see you as well. Let's go.